Okay, I believe I have begun recording. Heck yeah, we're 7 seconds in already. I didn't even realize it. I'm going hard. All right, cool. So we're doing Andrew Tate today, my friends, and we're having the spotlight on the star Antares. So if you want to see a longer video of this, I'll probably put one up on my Patreon. I'm constantly doing longer form videos there. I try and keep them short on YouTube. It's just easier that way. I put a couple of long ones up here and there, but they generally don't get as much engagement as like they deserve. So that's why I like to save them for Patreon. So anyway, if you want to check that out, the link will be in my description. The description. Anyway. So Andrew, I can't even say his name now. Tate, Slate. Great. We have really interesting chart, actually. Whatever you think of people, the charts are always fascinating. So right here, he's born like literally at the moment of a new moon. Look at that. Sun and moon in exact conjunction, which is really something. Uh, yeah, geez, that blows my mind. And not only in exact conjunction with each other, but also with the star Antares. Antares is the heart of Scorpio here. It's at 9 degrees of tropical Sagittarius, obviously 15 degrees of sidereal Scorpio, right in the middle, and in the tropical zodiac, 9 degrees of Sagittarius, as I said. And I think, is that Saturn there with it? Let's see. Hold on. We got to do some shenanigans with this chart. But this is a really interesting example. Actually, Pablo Escobar had the same, the exact same triple here. Sun, Moon, MC, all conjunct Antares. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, look at that. And Saturn. Jesus Christ. How is this guy still alive? That's actually very interesting. That makes sense that he would be imprisoned. The invisible moon rules imprisonment. When somebody has a really bad invisible moon, like a really afflicted one, they go to jail because the invisible moon is under Saturn. And if you read what Vettius Valens says about the invisible moon, the phases of the moon, something's going on with my program here. He says that the invisible moon is linked with chains and loss and isolation, something like that. But the word chains is very strong, and it literally means imprisonment. So if Mars or Saturn generally is with the invisible moon, or there's even more afflictions, then they will at some point end up in jail. So, and that's exactly what happens here. He's got the invisible Saturn with the invisible moon with Antares. Antares is really important here. It's the sister star of Aldebaran, which is the star of America, the luckiest star in the sky. And Antares is a star of war. War, heroics, and crime. Either way, it's about extremes. It's obviously ruled by Mars, right? Big red bloody star of war is definitely ruled by Mars. And yeah, it's so with the royal stars, when you have a luminary, the sun or the moon, with the royal star in an angle, the MC, the ascendant, the descendant, or even the IC, then it makes a quote unquote royal chart, or somebody who will be extremely famous, very well known. Antares, when this happens, it makes the king, you can call them royal, like king or queen charts or whatever, just as an archetype. If somebody has what Andrew Tate has in their chart, I will say this person is like a king of the underworld. Whereas somebody, if this was Regulus, over here, a slightly different star, which he doesn't have, but if this was Regulus up here, then it's the king, just the king of the world. I believe Napoleon has a double conjunction with Regulus. Lots of kings in the past had this double conjunction with Regulus. So yeah, that's a very significant one. And Scorpio is the cave in Greek mythology, the being who is called Echidna, the snake, and that's a female demon, female archdemon, and she is a snake from the waist down and a beautiful, sexy lady from the waist up. And her, obviously, there's a whole imagery there. I'm not going to go into it now. I don't have time. But in short, she symbolizes our desires. And when you get close enough to her, she has 100 snakes on her back and she devours you whole. And this is her cave. Scorpio is like her cave, or even the cave of the Python in the myth of Apollo. Apollo, the snake Python, who is a child of Echidna, is hunting Leto, Apollo's mother, who's about to give birth to the light, Apollo. And when eventually Apollo is born, as gods are born, they're born in their full armor and array and fully grown. And he goes and hunts the Python in her cave, which is Scorpio. Scorpio is this cave of the devil. So people with a lot of Scorpio, especially like Andrew Tate, my God, and this is a dark chart. This is not somebody who's really conquering a lot of their there's a little bit of it, there's a little bit of stuff there, but in general, this is somebody who is given into the darkness because of the invisible moon being there. So if you have the sun in Scorpio, it's like you've kind of got this cave of the devil situation where Apollo is entering the cave of the snake, and there's a confrontation between them, and one will win. But if the sun is very afflicted, like it is here with the invisible moon, which is another symbol of the darkness of the Echidna, not the Australian Echidna, but the Greek Echidna. The invisible moon is another symbol of her. So the darkness is very, very strong there. And then the Saturn there too, which I hadn't even noticed before. And Saturn there as well emphasizes that, the darkness is even stronger than I first thought. So this is somebody who's definitely succumbed to the influence of these stars, of this dark cave, basically, who's the devil has won in this fencing match. So we have a king of the underworld. That being said, there is also Jupiter and Mars down here in the sacred zone of Aquarius, which is actually positive. Jupiter there is the only helping force against that new moon. It's not an eclipse, is it? No, it's not an eclipse. And in the sacred zone, means that there are some good ideas. Yeah, some divine inspiration that comes. Some of it to do with money. Actually, this whole thing is really interesting. I don't know how much you viewer know much about Andrew Tate, but so Antares, it's a star of war. Andrew Tate is a champion kickboxer. Antares is, Mars, themes of Mars and Scorpio, obviously, very sexual. He said, I remember watching an interview with him once, he said that he made his first $1 million through running like a cam girl website, I think, like e-prostitutes, internet sort of prostitution. Jeez, so he was basically an internet pimp. And also, so not the most straight character, And also, what's the other thing? Yeah, Antares can be very dark. I don't know about I don't know the whole in-depth story, but I remember watching a review about, I think he sells like a course or something now, and the whole thing's basically not much better than a scam. So Antares is a very powerful, very famous destiny, but not the most scrupulous person, not the most honest person in the world. And there's always more to look at, but this is the general gist of the chart, which is really quite interesting, actually. I don't know I don't really know enough to look at it anymore. I might do some research one day and do the full session on Patreon, like with a lot of information. What I will be doing, though, next up is Tolkien. I know his chart very well. I know his life story very well. He is also dead, so that's helpful because we know everything about his life. And I'm going to do a full deep dive on that because his chart is fascinating. Very similar to Andrew Tate, but much better. And he's obviously in the light rather than the darkness. So